A young man wakes up completely trapped inside a dark and cramped space. He feels entirely confused about his situation and wonders where his room is. Suddenly, the shell around him cracks open. He gets a good look at a massive forest outside and realizes he is actually trapped inside an egg. Right away, a mysterious voice echoes in his head and opens up a status window. The voice informs him that he is currently a level 1 dragon egg. The system explains that the status window displays all his current abilities. It shows numerical values for his attack, defense, magic, and agility so he can easily understand his overall power. He asks the voice who is talking to him and where he is. The system simply states that its level is too low to provide that kind of explanation right now. Frustrated by the lack of answers, the young man accidentally falls out of the high tree branch and hits the ground hard. His health points instantly drop from the impact. The system immediately notifies him that he has earned the falling resistance skill and the klutz title. He rolls around the forest floor and wonders how he is supposed to survive like this. The system gives him a harsh reality check by explaining that an F-ranked dragon egg is completely powerless. It tells him he has extremely low intelligence and can only roll around to defend himself. To make matters even worse, the voice adds that dragon eggs are considered a gourmet delicacy. Because of this, human adventurers and other monsters constantly hunt them down. Hearing this makes the young man panic completely. He realizes he needs to figure out a way to defend himself quickly before something eats him. He practices rolling around the forest to get used to his new body. He rapidly levels up his rolling skill from level 1 to level 2. This upgrade allows him to steer his eggshell and move at incredibly high speeds across the rough terrain. He spends the rest of the day exploring his new environment until night falls. He decides to take a break and rest under a tree. He discovers that resting fully restores his health and magic points back to maximum. Knowing he cannot stay a defenseless egg forever, he wonders how he can evolve into a full-fledged dragon. The system informs him that he needs to defeat enemies to earn experience points. Almost immediately, a giant purple worm emerges from the bushes and spots him. The young man checks the monster's stats and sees it is a level 5 dark worm. He notices the worm has an egg eater title and realizes the monster wants to eat him for dinner. He desperately rolls away to escape the predator. The worm lunges forward with its massive circular mouth full of sharp teeth. It bites the eggshell hard and sends the young man flying through the air. He takes serious damage from the attack and realizes he cannot just run away forever. He checks the worm's stats again and notices it has way more health than he does. This means a direct head-on fight is absolute suicide. He comes up with a quick tactical plan and rolls aggressively toward the edge of a steep rocky cliff. The worm blindly chases after him and falls straight off the ledge. It crashes violently into the ground below and dies from the severe impact. The young man checks the bottom of the cliff and sees the dead worm leaking green fluid. The system immediately notifies him that he has earned 12 experience points for the kill. Thanks to a special title called Walking Egg, he gets an additional 12 experience points as a bonus. He instantly shoots up to level 5. The system then announces that his level is completely maxed out. All his evolution requirements are finally fulfilled. The voice presents him with 2 different evolution paths through glowing digital cards. The first option is a little dragon. The system explains this is a dwarf breed of dragon that eventually grows larger than a bear. It has a D+ rank and can use a powerful fire breath attack to scare off adventurers. The second option is a baby dragon. This path has a lower D- rank and very weak attacks due to short claws and fangs. However, it possesses incredible potential to evolve into many powerful dragon species later on. The system casually notes that baby dragons are usually hunted because their meat tastes delicious when paired with sauce. The young man feels completely disgusted by the culinary review. He leans toward the safer little dragon option to avoid becoming a snack for a hungry adventurer. Suddenly, a much more serious and powerful voice echoes in his mind. The voice commands him to grow strong and aim for the top without disappointing it. The young man realizes his divine voice skill just leveled up and gave him a massive hint about his future. Trusting the system's advice, he changes his mind entirely. He selects the baby dragon evolution path so he can unlock his true potential and avoid any regrets. A brilliant white light surrounds his body, and his spotted eggshell completely shatters. He transforms into a small yellow dragon with long ears, wings, and a tail. The system updates his stats and reveals a massive boost to his attack and defense. Because of his Son of the Dragon King title, all his low-level resistance skills get boosted automatically. He also earned several new combat skills, including Dragon Scales, Baby Breath, Whistle, and Nibble. However, he quickly notices that his health and magic points do not automatically refill after the evolution process. He feels incredibly hungry and realizes he needs to eat something to recover his missing health. His new dragon instincts kick in and urge him to eat the dead dark worm lying nearby. He feels totally grossed out by the idea of eating a giant bug dripping with green slime. He knows he needs protein to survive in this dangerous world, so he forces himself to take a bite. He gags at the disgusting, vomit-inducing taste, but somehow manages to finish the entire meal. The disgusting food does its job, and he fully restores his health. The next morning, the young man wakes up feeling completely refreshed. He confirms that he has definitely been reincarnated into a fantasy role-playing game world. He barely remembers anything about his past human life, not even his own gender. He decides to put his past behind him and focus entirely on surviving his new reality. He spends the next few days hunting down more dark worms to grind for experience points. His new baby breath and physical attacks make the fights incredibly easy. He effortlessly burns the bugs to a crisp in massive explosions and levels up rapidly. He even earns an infighter title and a dragon punch skill for his close quarters combat efforts. However, he quickly gets completely sick of eating the gross worm meat after every single battle. He tries to switch up his diet by eating a random red mushroom he finds on the forest floor. The mushroom turns out to be highly toxic, and he nearly dies from the severe poison. He barely survives the painful ordeal and earns a poison resistance skill for his trouble. He learns his lesson and decides to hunt for better food instead of scavenging for random plants. He spots a gray wolf walking down a dirt path and checks its stats. The wolf is only level 6, which is much lower than his current level. He confidently jumps out of the bushes and challenges the wolf to a fight. The wolf charges at him with its sharp teeth, but the young man easily dodges the attack. He leaps high into the air and unleashes a massive blast of fire from his mouth. He follows up with a fiery dragon punch. The flames engulf the wolf and instantly kill it in a massive explosion. He levels up again and successfully reaches level 20. He decides to use his fire breath to grill the wolf meat before eating it. The cooked meat tastes absolutely amazing, resembling delicious barbecue. He feels proud of his new survival skills and wishes he had some black pepper to season it properly. He realizes he only needs 5 more levels to reach his next evolution stage at level 25. Unfortunately, the experience points from the wolves are starting to slow down significantly. While finishing his meal, he suddenly hears voices echoing through the golden trees. He listens closely and realizes they are actual human voices. He sneaks through the bushes and spots 3 human adventurers walking down the path. The group consists of an older man with a staff, a tough warrior in heavy fur-lined armor, and a young female healer in a blue cloak. He checks their stats and sees that none of them are stronger than him. He remembers that he used to be a human and decides to try making friends with them. He figures his small yellow dragon form looks pretty cute and harmless, so they will probably accept him. He confidently jumps out from behind a tree and tries to act as adorable as possible. He playfully begs them not to attack him and hopes they will give him a hug. Unfortunately, the adventurers do not see a cute little creature at all. To them, he looks like a terrifying, bloodthirsty orange monster with glowing red eyes and a dark purple aura. The warrior immediately panics and draws his massive glowing sword. He swings his blade with full force and slashes the young man right across the chest. A massive spray of blood erupts from the wound. The young man screams in agony and falls to the ground. He desperately tries to explain that he is not a threat, but the humans cannot understand his dragon noises. The older mage steps forward and casts a powerful lightning spell from his staff. The yellow electric shock hits the young man head-on and completely paralyzes his body. The system notifies him that he has earned a magic resistance skill, but it does not help him move his limbs. He lies on the ground bleeding out and realizes he made a massive mistake by trusting the humans. He feels terrified and begs for his life as the warrior raises his sword for the finishing blow. Just before the blade connects, the young female healer steps between them and stops the attack. She uses her staff to block the warrior and refuses to let him kill the helpless dragon. The young man feels incredibly confused by her sudden intervention. The girl kneels down beside him and places her glowing hands directly on his bleeding wound. She casts a green healing spell and slowly closes the massive gash on his side. He feels a warm sensation spreading through his body and realizes she just saved his life. He sheds a tear of gratitude and silently thanks her for showing mercy to a monster. The system opens a status window and identifies the girl as Miria Miliania, an Earth human. He notices that she used almost all of her magic points to heal him. This makes her sacrifice even more meaningful to him. The paralysis slowly starts to wear off, but he decides to keep acting injured just so he can stay near her a little longer. The system instantly awards him the liar title for faking his injury, which severely annoys him. He also earns a Grisha language skill that might help him understand her words in the future. He happily looks forward to communicating with her properly. Suddenly, a deafening roar shakes the entire forest. The sky turns dark red, and a massive surge of monstrous energy fills the air. The young man senses an incredibly powerful monster approaching from the trees. He hears the older mage and the warriors scream in pure terror before going completely silent. He realizes the two men have just been slaughtered by the unseen beast. Miria looks absolutely horrified and realizes she is in grave danger. The young man desperately clutches her clothes and tries to warn her to run away. He knows she cannot fight without any magic points left. Miria gently pulls her outfit from his grip and tells him to take care of himself. She decides to run away and draw the monster's attention to save the little dragon. She sprints off into the dark woods, leaving the young man behind. He struggles aggressively against the lingering paralysis and desperately tries to force his body to move. He refuses to let the girl who saved his life die alone. He pushes his muscles to the absolute limit and finally breaks free from the paralysis. He instantly sprints in the direction Miria ran and follows the trail of destruction. He arrives at a rocky clearing and finds Miria lying unconscious on the ground. Looming over her is a massive, heavily armored rock dragon. The young man quickly checks the boss monster's stats and sees it is a C-rank beast named the Little Rock Dragon. It has a massive health pool of almost 200 points. He checks his own stats and realizes he only has 38 health points left from his previous injuries. Despite the overwhelming power gap and his own severe wounds, he refuses to back down. He steps firmly between the unconscious girl and the giant rock dragon to protect her. He glares at the massive beast's glowing red eyes with pure determination and prepares for a brutal fight to the death. The system recognizes his incredible courage and immediately awards him a new title for being hated for his bravery. The young dragon realizes that despite his bravery, he has absolutely zero skills or stats that can actually defeat a C-rank boss monster right now. The system's divine voice urgently flashes warning messages in his mind, repeatedly telling him to run away or he will definitely die. He sees the massive rock dragon, which has nearly 200 health points, marching straight toward the unconscious Miria. He checks her health bar and sees she is severely injured, dropping down to a critical 6 health points. He remembers how she bravely used her own magic to save his life earlier when he was paralyzed. He decides he absolutely has to rescue her no matter what the cost is to his own safety. He charges forward and uses his newly leveled rolling skill to distract the massive beast. He aggressively dodges its giant rocky stomps and earns the King of Evasion title for his extremely quick reflexes. He notices that the other human adventurer is already dead on the ground, so he focuses his rescue efforts entirely on Miria. He channels his energy, glows with a bright yellow light, and lands a rapid barrage of fiery punches directly on the dragon's armored chest. He actually manages to crack its rocky head wide open, causing stone fragments to fall to the ground. This successful strike temporarily pisses the monster off, so the young man flies away to lure it away from the injured girl. The rock dragon aggressively chases him and uses a massive tremor attack that sends sharp rocks flying everywhere across the battlefield. The young man takes a few hits and realizes he cannot just keep evading forever because the monster has dangerous long-range area attacks. He turns around and blasts the beast in the head with a powerful fireball. The attack lands perfectly and chips away at its rocky armor, but the system shows the dragon's massive health bar instantly regenerating from 19 points back up to 22 points. Seeing this rapid healing ability, he knows he absolutely cannot win a battle of attrition against a boss that heals itself. He quickly rushes back to Miria's location, scoops her limp body up onto his back, and sprints away through the golden forest as fast as his little legs can carry him. As he carries her, he checks her status window again and sees she is bleeding out rapidly and remains completely in a coma. He desperately wishes he had some kind of healing magic to save her from dying on his back. He decides his only viable option is to carry her all the way back to her human village and hope someone there can fix her up before it is too late. Along the way, he suddenly catches the strong scent of wild animals tracking them. A pack of shadowy gray wolves leaps out from the dense bushes and blocks the dirt path. The young dragon is already totally exhausted from the boss fight, but he refuses to give up on his savior. At first, there are only 3 wolves, but they quickly multiply until an entire pack completely surrounds him. He uses his fire breath attacks and physical strikes to brutally fight off the aggressive wolves while doing everything he can to keep Miria safe on his back. After a grueling and bloody journey through the dark woods, he finally reaches the outskirts of the human settlement in the middle of the night. He sees a tall wooden watchtower and a cozy stone cottage. He collapses onto the ground from sheer exhaustion and desperately shouts for someone to come out and help the injured girl. Several local villagers immediately run out of their wooden homes carrying pitchforks, scythes, hoes, and lanterns. Because they see a monstrous yellow dragon standing directly over a bloody human girl, they instantly assume he is the one who attacked her. The men aggressively charge at him with their weapons drawn to kill the beast. The young man gently touches Miria's face one last time to make sure she is breathing, begs the angry villagers to take good care of her, and sprints back into the dark forest to escape the violent mob. He watches the village from the shadows while leaning exhausted against a tree, feeling incredibly relieved that Miria is finally in safe hands and getting medical attention. He accepts that humans will always hate dragons no matter what good deeds they do, but he feels proud of his heroic actions anyway. The system awards him the itty-bitty hero title for being hated for his bravery. A couple of days later, Miria finally wakes up inside a cozy stone house in the village. She looks around the room and sees her mentor, an elf woman named Marielle, sitting beside her wooden bed. Marielle explains that she had to use extremely powerful white magic to heal Miria's severe wounds. Miria immediately asks about the fate of her party members, Duz and Grants. Marielle bluntly tells her the harsh truth that Grants was found beaten to death in the woods, and Duz was completely eaten by the monster. Miria breaks down in tears and blames herself for not stopping Duz from going on the hunt. Marielle comforts the crying girl and explains that Duz was just a prideful fool whose extreme arrogance got him killed. She recounts how Duz used to walk around the village carrying dead wolves over his shoulder just to brag to the local kids. One night at the tavern, another villager in a green tunic mocked Duz and said he could never defeat a real monster like a rock dragon. This bruised Duz's massive ego, so he aggressively swore to hunt the beast down just to prove his strength. Marielle explains that Daz intentionally manipulated Miria into coming along as their healer by lying to her face and claiming he had Marielle's official permission for the hunt. Grants just passively nodded along with the lie. Miria had tried to refuse and said they should go home if things got dangerous, but Daz pressured her into joining. Marielle is just incredibly glad that Miria managed to survive the terrible ordeal. She mentions that some local villagers found Miria lying unconscious just outside the town and drove away a small monster that was supposedly attacking her. Miria feels incredibly confused by this story because she clearly remembers losing consciousness deep in the forest right in front of the massive rock dragon. She wonders how she magically made it all the way back to the edge of the village. Marielle simply assumes the extreme trauma gave her temporary amnesia, but Miria secretly suspects that the little yellow dragon actually saved her life and carried her all the way home. Meanwhile, back in the lush green forest, the young dragon wakes up fully healed after getting a good night of rest. He feels incredibly frustrated by his own weakness during the boss fight and vows to get much stronger so he can actually protect people next time. He decides to aggressively grind for experience points to trigger his next evolution as fast as possible. He uses his new Call Allies skill to intentionally lure a massive swarm of dark worms into a tight clearing. The system harshly awards him the wrongdoer title for using this manipulative bait tactic, but he completely ignores the insult. He tells the worms that he will always remember their noble sacrifice for his growth. He ruthlessly slaughters the giant purple bugs by dodging their massive teeth and hitting them with his powerful dragon punch and massive fire blasts. After wiping out the entire nasty swarm in a giant fiery explosion that scorches the earth, he earns massive amounts of experience points. The system happily announces that he has reached level 25. His level is now completely maxed out, and he has successfully met all the requirements for his next major evolution. The system automatically opens a blue digital menu and presents him with 5 completely different evolution paths to choose from. The available choices are the Young Plague Dragon, the Kid Marble Dragon, the Kid Dragon, the Mini Angel Dragon, and the Mini Dragon. He feels totally overwhelmed by all the options and asks the Divine Voice to explain the specific differences between them. To his surprise, the Divine Voice actually answers him directly and projects glowing holograms of the different dragon types. The system kindly explains that little dragons grow extremely fast but have terrible long-term potential, making him very glad he chose the baby route earlier. Kid dragons are just a standard, stronger physical upgrade to his current form. Mini dragons have very slow growth and few evolutionary choices but possess massive future potential for extremely powerful late-game forms. The Mini Angel Dragon path grants powerful white magic for healing injuries, which immediately reminds him of Miria, but it completely lacks any physical combat ability to defend itself. The Kid Marble Dragon is a mutated form that boasts incredibly high magic stats for casting strong spells. Finally, he looks at the dark and ominous Young Plague Dragon. The system describes it as a terrifying evil dragon that spreads endless disaster and sickness wherever it goes. He immediately rejects this dark option because he absolutely does not want to be an evil monster that everyone in the world hates. However, the system suddenly adds that the plague dragon possesses incredibly high intelligence and an extremely rare unique skill called human transformation. Hearing this completely changes his entire perspective on the dark path. He quickly realizes that if he can transform into a human being, he can safely walk right into the human village without being attacked by angry men with pitchforks. He happily pictures himself walking through the town gates to visit Miria in a normal human body. Suddenly, the evil plague dragon path seems like an unexpectedly pleasant evolution option, and he seriously considers choosing it so he can finally make some human friends and live a normal life again. He fully commits to his decision and selects the young plague dragon evolution path because he desperately wants to acquire the human transformation skill to reunite with Miria. A brilliant purple aura completely engulfs his small body as he floats in a swirling cosmic void. His form rapidly expands and mutates, replacing his cute yellow fur with tough dark gray scales, massive purple wings, sharp orange horns, and glowing cyan lines across his chest. He lands on the grassy shore of a bright blue lake and immediately realizes his terrifying new appearance makes him look like an incredibly evil final boss. He pushes his worries aside and eagerly checks his status window to see his new abilities. The system informs him that his view stats skill leveled up from 2 to 3, allowing him to finally read the detailed descriptions of his own abilities. He scrolls through the notifications and sees that he acquired a fly skill and a dragon scale powder skill. The system also reveals that his normal nibble attack automatically evolved into venom fangs. He continues reading and discovers he gained a dark type affinity, a diseased breath attack, and paralyzing venom claws. The system then officially awards him a brand new title called Calamity and announces that his wrongdoer title leveled up from 1 to 2. He feels completely horrified by these villainous upgrades and aggressively shouts at the floating green menu boards because he did not receive the human transformation skill he was promised. The divine voice bluntly informs him that it cannot provide any explanations regarding the missing skill at his current level. Frustrated, he decides to read the detailed descriptions of his newly acquired powers to see exactly what he is dealing with. He checks the dragon scale powder skill and learns that simply flapping his wings spreads a highly debilitating miasma that can effortlessly wipe out entire nations. He then reads the description for diseased breath and discovers it is a highly contagious biological attack that causes severe debuffs and previously wiped out an entire human civilization. He feels absolutely miserable realizing he has officially become a living weapon of mass destruction. He desperately hopes his titles can help him get back on the righteous path, so he inspects his itty-bitty hero title. The system explains this title belongs to those who embody modest courage and grants a slight damage boost to certain weapons while heavily influencing his future evolution path. He then checks the wrongdoer title and learns it belongs to diabolic villains who leave behind mountains of corpses while laughing evilly. This terrible title slightly increases his dark type damage but actively makes learning white magic spells much harder and significantly reduces his overall recovery rate. He realizes this title also majorly influences his evolution path, which completely explains why he turned into a plague dragon. He throws a massive tantrum and dramatically begs the system to revert him back into an innocent baby dragon, absolutely regretting his terrible choice. Meanwhile, back at the human village, Miria and Marielle walk through the surrounding forest to inspect the stone warding markers. Marielle touches a circular emblem on a stone wall, causing it to glow with golden magic, and explains that these markers create a barrier to prevent monsters from entering the settlement. However, she clarifies that the barrier acts more like a subconscious charm and remains completely ineffective against monsters that possess a strong will or a specific goal. Miria remembers the little yellow dragon that saved her life and wonders out loud if it bypassed the barrier because it genuinely wanted to help her. Marielle sighs and explicitly warns Miria not to develop any foolish feelings for a monster. She explains that monsters strictly fight to survive, gain experience points, and evolve into more ferocious forms by hunting other creatures. Miria questions how humanity learned so much about the complex leveling mechanics of monsters. Marielle reminds her that exactly 11 years ago, special individuals known as heroes and saints appeared and could hear the divine voice, which provided humanity with all the necessary information about levels and evolutions. Marielle sternly tells Miria that every single monster is purely driven by a violent fighting instinct, making them completely incompatible with human society. She strictly warns Miria that even the little dragon that saved her will inevitably evolve into a terrifying beast and try to kill her the next time they cross paths. Miria feels incredibly sad upon hearing this, but she still quietly hopes the dragon remains good. Back in the deep forest, the newly evolved plague dragon decides to aggressively farm experience points so he can level up, acquire the human transformation skill, and finally visit Miria in her village. He confidently marches through the woods until his large clawed foot suddenly gets completely stuck to the dry earth. He looks down and realizes he is tightly bound by extremely thick, glowing white spider threads. A massive red and black spider monster named Tarancharouge suddenly drops from the trees and violently ambushes him. He uses his view stats skill and immediately realizes the giant spider possesses incredibly high attack, defense, magic, and agility stats. He knows he cannot possibly win a direct physical fight against such a powerful enemy, so he decides to rely on his special abilities. He unleashes a powerful blast of baby breath, completely engulfing the giant spider in a fiery explosion. He celebrates his successful hit, but instantly realizes his own body caught on fire due to the extreme close range of the blast. The system chimes in and awards him the fire resistance skill, which slightly reduces the burning pain covering his scales. He checks the spider's status window and sees that it is officially inflicted with the burn status condition, though its health bar barely decreased. He decides to press his advantage and charges forward with his paralyzing venom claws. His sharp gray claws glow with intense yellow and purple electrical energy as he brutally slashes the giant spider, causing a massive explosion of light. He steps back and checks the spider's stats again, expecting a decisive victory. However, he is completely shocked to see the spider still retains more than half of its total health points. To make matters substantially worse, his attack only inflicted a slight paralysis effect and successfully triggered the spider's enraged status condition. He aggressively panics and decides to run away as fast as possible while the giant bug is temporarily stunned. He sprints down a steep grassy slope and tries to activate his fly skill to escape into the sky. He leaps into the air but instantly crashes space first into the dirt, completely failing to fly because his level is too low to properly control his massive new wings. He looks back and sees the paralysis effect has already worn off, allowing the furious red spider to quickly close the distance. He immediately activates his roll skill and spins rapidly across the forest floor like a glowing purple wheel. His roll skill quickly levels up from 3 to 4, and the system simultaneously awards him a brand new title called Chicken Runner. He feels deeply insulted by the cowardly title but refuses to stop rolling because he is literally fighting for his life. He blindly rolls through the dense foliage until he suddenly reaches the edge of a massive rocky cliff. He realizes the enormous drop will absolutely kill him if he falls normally, but the angry spider is already right behind him. He decides to take a massive risk and leaps straight off the cliff at full speed. He forcefully spreads his purple wings and successfully catches the wind, allowing him to glide gracefully over the deep canyon and escape the terrifying predator completely. He lands safely in a distant grassy clearing and feels incredibly relieved to be alive, though he is completely exhausted from the intense chase. He angrily vows to return and completely obliterate the giant spider once he levels up his stats. Suddenly, he hears a loud noise and looks up in absolute horror. The red and black spider somehow used its thick webbing to swing completely across the massive canyon and resumes its aggressive pursuit. He aggressively curses the monster's insane persistence and immediately resumes his desperate retreat. He decides to utilize hit-and-run tactics on significantly weaker monsters in the forest to quickly farm experience points while constantly staying on the move. He viciously slaughters a gray wolf, gaining 20 base experience points. The system announces that his walking egg title automatically grants him an additional 12 bonus experience points for the kill, allowing him to level up instantly. He continues his brutal grinding session and mercilessly massacres a large blue forest cutter mantis, a poisonous wargmush, and a giant zebrutterfly. His level rapidly skyrockets from 3 all the way to 8, drastically increasing his overall health points and base stats. Feeling significantly stronger and much more confident, he finally stops running and turns around to confront the giant spider for a final rematch. He uses his view stats skill to carefully analyze the spider's abilities before attacking. He discovers the beast possesses the bite, paralyzing tongue, spider silk, and double poison skills. He feels completely confused by the double poison skill but decides to execute a close-range baby breath attack anyway. He aggressively charges forward, but the massive spider reacts instantly and brutally pins him to the grassy ground with its heavy legs. The spider opens its glowing green eyes and unleashes its double poison ability, completely blanketing the surrounding area in a thick, lingering cloud of toxic red mist. He lies trapped under the spider and feels his throat burning in absolute agony from inhaling the toxic fumes. However, his natural poison resistance prevents the deadly mist from instantly paralyzing or killing him. He quickly realizes the spider is patiently waiting for the poison to finish him off, assuming he is completely helpless. He decides to utilize a deceptive strategy and deliberately plays dead, violently coughing and totally relaxing his body to trick the massive bug. The giant spider completely falls for the incredibly convincing bluff and slightly lowers its guard. He immediately seizes the perfect opportunity and launches himself high into the air using his powerful legs. He successfully utilizes his fly skill to remain airborne above the spider and forcefully unleashes a maximum-powered baby breath attack directly down onto the unsuspecting monster. The fiery blast completely engulfs the giant red spider in a massive roaring explosion of vibrant orange and yellow flames, instantly blowing the creature into tiny charred fragments. He performs a celebratory backflip in the air and lands gracefully in the center of the massive crater. The system happily announces that defeating such a high-level enemy caused his level to instantly shoot up from 8 to 14. His baby breath skill automatically levels up from 2 to 3, and he unexpectedly acquires a brand new skill called Dragon Tail because he successfully used his tail to balance during the final aerial kick. He eagerly stares at the floating green menu boards and waits for the system to finally give him the human transformation skill. He waits in absolute silence, but the notification never appears. He feels overwhelmingly disappointed and angrily questions if the evolution description was a complete lie or if he needs to fulfill a hidden requirement first. Exhausted and incredibly hungry from the non-stop battling, he picks up the carcass of the gray wolf he killed earlier and searches for a safe place to rest. He eventually finds a dimly lit, empty rocky cave hidden inside a canyon and decides to make it his permanent secret base. He builds a small, crackling campfire and eagerly roasts several pieces of the wolf meat on wooden skewers. Takes a large bite but quickly complains that the unseasoned meat tastes incredibly gamey and gross. He suddenly remembers finding a strange orange monster paw covered in small orange spheres earlier in the forest. He retrieves the strange paw and realizes the orange spears smell exactly like spicy pepper. He forcefully squeezes the spears, dripping a bright pinkish liquid directly onto the hot roasting meat. He takes another bite and absolutely violently rejoices because the spicy seasoning completely removes the gamey flavor and makes the meat taste incredibly delicious. The system instantly awards him the Mr. Chef title for his successful culinary experiment. He feels intensely annoyed that the divine voice constantly broadcasts his private life like a sports commentator, but he happily finishes his massive meal anyway. He decides to gather more of the spicy orange fruit tomorrow and dry it outside the cave to properly preserve it for future meals. He lies down beside the warm fire and solemnly reflects on his current situation. He looks at his sharp claws, massive wings, and terrifying yellow eyes, deeply missing his cute, tiny baby dragon form. He feels completely depressed because he knows his current monstrous appearance would absolutely terrify Miria and the other villagers even if he somehow managed to find their settlement. He accepts that he is completely stuck in the villain storyline and decides to just go to sleep. Meanwhile, back at the human village, Miria sits in a lively, stone-walled tavern with Marielle and a blonde-bearded adventurer. An elderly villager named Bertz approaches their table holding a wooden mug of beer and claims he saw Duz alive the previous day. Duz is the incredibly arrogant adventurer who dragged Miria into the forest and supposedly died fighting the rock dragon. Bertz explicitly states he was fishing by a pond outside the village and clearly saw Duz walking deep into the thicket of trees while constantly muttering to himself. The blonde-bearded man aggressively accuses Bertz of being completely drunk and entirely making up the ridiculous story. Miria feels a massive surge of hope and desperately begs Marielle to let her go into the dangerous forest to search for Duz. Marielle forcefully slams her hands on the table and absolutely refuses to let Miria leave the village. She explicitly states that the forest is far too dangerous, and she will not actively risk any more innocent lives for a foolish search mission. Miria desperately pleads to form a massive search party with the other local villagers, but Marielle immediately shuts the idea down to prevent further casualties. Marielle calms down slightly and promises to officially ask the Adventurers Guild to thoroughly investigate the forest instead. Miria reluctantly agrees to the incredibly safe plan and quietly apologizes to Marielle for being so stubbornly unreasonable. Early the next morning, the plague dragon wakes up fully rested and eager to resume his aggressive grinding routine to completely max out his current level. He walks out of his cave and strolls near the edge of a beautiful, shimmering blue lake. He spots a small, translucent blue slime with 3 rounded peaks slowly squishing through the green grass. He assumes the tiny creature is just a pathetic, incredibly weak monster and decides to easily farm it for quick experience points. He confidently activates his view stats skill to check its exact numerical level before attacking. Suddenly, an excruciating wave of pain shoots straight through his brain. His vision completely glitches out, totally filling his eyes with multicolored static and heavily distorted digital characters. The divine voice desperately informs him that the view stats skill absolutely cannot provide specific information regarding this target at its current level 3 capacity. The intense, overwhelming mental strain accidentally forces his view stats skill to instantly level up from 3 to 4. The heavy visual static clears slightly, revealing a completely glitched system screen featuring a terrifying red background and distorted white text. He reads the corrupted screen and discovers that the tiny blue slime is actually a tremendously powerful, heavily disguised boss monster officially named the Pot turned out to be a tortoise. He checks its stats and feels absolute terror when he sees it boasts an impossibly high level of 56. The system brutally informs him that he made a massive mistake and bluntly tells him to get stronger. He wakes up fully rested from his cave and immediately heads out to grind levels. He spots a small blue jelly creature by a lake and thinks it will be an easy target. He tries to check its stats, but his head starts hurting violently as his view stats skill levels up to 4. The system reveals the jelly is actually a ridiculously high-level boss, so he wisely decides to run away and search in a completely different direction. He spots a large purple jar resting against a tree. He happily thinks it would be perfectly handy for storing the fruits he finds in the forest. He reaches out his clawed hand to grab the jar, but the object suddenly launches itself through the air and flies right past his head. He turns around and realizes the jar is actually a monster known as a tortoise. The creature fiercely lunges at him, and he immediately counters by pulling his arm back and throwing a powerful punch, but the physical strike does absolutely nothing to the hard shell. He follows up by taking a deep breath and unleashing a massive orange fireball that completely engulfs the creature in flames. However, he checks its health bar and sees the attack barely did any damage. To make matters significantly worse, the tortoise immediately uses a resting skill to instantly recover all of its lost health. Realizing conventional attacks simply will not work on the heavily armored enemy, he aggressively grabs the mechanical-looking tortoise, flies up to the edge of a rugged rocky cliff, and brutally hurls the creature high into the bright blue sky. The monster plummets headfirst into a deep, narrow ravine and dies upon impact. The system awards him 36 experience points, and his Walking Egg title grants him additional bonus points, allowing him to level up to 15, while his Dastardly King and Wrongdoer titles also increase in level. He feels great after the intense fight, but as he continues walking, he suddenly encounters a massive group of tortoises. Before he can even react, the monsters use a normal skill to call for allies and rapidly stack on top of each other, forming a ridiculously tall segmented tower that stretches high into the sky. They attempt to smash him with their combined weight using their thin yellow arms, but he refuses to be crushed. He envelops himself in a vibrant red aura and launches himself straight upward at incredible speed. He unleashes a devastating beam of red energy that completely obliterates the entire tower, scattering broken pot pieces all over the grassy forest floor. The system announces that he acquired a new skill called Meteorite, and the massive amount of experience points instantly skyrockets his level from 15 all the way to 30. His fly and view stat skills also level up. He tries to salvage one of the broken shells to use as a cooking pot, but it is completely cracked and ruined, so he just eats the monster meat inside instead. He complains about wanting vegetables for a balanced diet and feels slightly frustrated that he still has not unlocked the human transformation skill despite his rapid leveling. Knowing he needs 10 more levels until his next evolution, he decides to keep aggressively grinding. He hears heavy footsteps approaching and hides behind a large, mossy tree trunk. He spots a massive, tan, bear-like creature wandering through the dense foliage. He uses his newly upgraded view stats skill and discovers it is a clay bear, a monster made entirely of clod with incredibly high recovery abilities. He gets incredibly excited, realizing that if he defeats it, he can use its high-quality clay body to craft his own pots and furnishings for his secret pad. He carefully positions himself on a high branch and launches a surprise attack from above, yelling out his Dastardly King Fist move as he dashes forward. However, as he strikes the creature, he quickly realizes it is absolutely not a normal bear. The beast reveals itself to be a massive, terrifyingly armored monster with a skull-like head and multiple tail appendages. The giant monster opens its cavernous mouth, preparing to attack, but he quickly fires a jagged beam of purple energy that blasts the creature backward into a massive cloud of dust. He celebrates the heavy damage, but the clay bear suddenly emits a pale green glow and uses its regenerate skill to completely restore its health. He panics, knowing he cannot defeat the behemoth in a single strike at his current level. He decides to use hit-and-run tactics to completely drain its magic points, repeatedly dashing behind the massive beast to strike and then quickly retreating before it can crush him. The clay bear tries to smash him between its massive rock-textured plates, completely obliterating the surrounding trees in a blinding burst of purple energy, but he swiftly dodges the lethal attack and counters with his sharp silver claws. As the battle drags on, the clay bear suddenly summons a massive, swirling sandstorm filled with sharp, spinning blades. The creature then transforms its body into a giant spiky sand monster, completely ruining his plan to attack from behind. The sand monster aggressively swings its massive spiked arm at him, forcing him to desperately dodge behind a mossy rock while the attack craters the earth. He notices that the monster's clay body immediately softens whenever a piece gets separated from the main structure. He quickly formulates a new plan and dodges another massive strike, using his sharp claws to slice off a giant chunk of the monster's yellowish-brown arm. He grabs the severed clay piece, infuses it with his magical energy until it becomes a glowing golden spear, and flies high into the sky above the green mountains. He activates his meteorite skill and plunges straight down, slamming the glowing sphere directly into the giant sand monster. The impact creates a massive, fiery explosion that completely obliterates the creature. He lands gracefully on the green hillside and rejoices as the system awards him 150 experience points, instantly doubling it due to his walking egg title, which raises his level to 33. He also acquires a new skill called Nutcracker, which allows him to bite down on hard objects with explosive force to crack them open. Most importantly, he successfully gathers the high-quality clay he desperately needs for his crafting projects. He returns to his secret cave base and uses his fire breath to heat up a makeshift stone furnace, carefully firing his newly molded clay pots inside. While he waits for the pottery to finish baking, he ventures back out into the lush green forest to forage for cooking ingredients. Thanks to his upgraded ViewStats skill, he can now easily identify various plants and their exact market values. He finds a lightning shroom rated at value E-, but ignores it after learning it contains a paralyzing poison that he has absolutely no resistance against. Shortly after, he spots a massive pink carnivorous flower with sharp, jagged teeth rated at value C-. The system informs him that while the rare plant eats animals, it cannot digest salt, so it steadily accumulates pure salt in the white part of its root. Thrilled to finally find a crucial cooking ingredient, he swiftly blasts the dangerous flower with a gust of energy and successfully harvests the salty white root. Meanwhile, back near the human village, Miria continues to feel incredibly guilty about Doza's disappearance. Despite Marielle strictly forbidding her from entering the dangerous forest and promising to let the guild handle it, Miria decides she cannot just sit around and do nothing. She vividly recalls Bertz's testimony about seeing Duz wandering deep into the trees while muttering to himself, and she determines she must find him. She completely ignores Marielle's warnings and secretly ventures into the dense woods holding her wooden staff. Along the way, she meets up with a group of adventurers led by a blonde man named Grants. Grants explicitly tells her that they are hunting the dangerous rock dragon and desperately need her magical support, heavily warning her that he and his partner will likely die without her help. Miria reluctantly agrees to accompany them to ensure their safety, but she strictly insists that they must turn back toward home immediately if the situation becomes too dangerous. As she travels deeper into the dark, menacing forest, she constantly worries that she might have gone too far and that the area is becoming too dangerous. Suddenly, a giant purple worm-like monster violently lunges at her from the thick foliage. Miria stays remarkably calm, tightly grips her wooden staff and casts a powerful fireball spell that completely incinerates the giant worm, sending it flying backward. She takes a deep breath and reassures herself that she will be perfectly fine as long as she maintains her composure. At the same time, the plague dragon continues his foraging expedition and discovers a monster shroom rated at value D, which the system describes as a delicious delicacy that tastes exactly like meat once it matures. He happily gathers it, imagining the rich, flavorful broth it will make when simmered. He then stumbles upon a patch of glowing purple mushrooms with green swirls rated at value A. The system identifies them as Morotrogia, an extremely rare and highly valuable hallucinogen that can revive a failing economy but causes intense euphoria and severe addiction. Horrified by the disturbing description, he immediately refuses to touch the illicit mushrooms, resulting in his itty-bitty hero title randomly leveling up. A bit further down the dirt path, he strikes absolute gold by finding a vine covered in small red berries called piperus. The system explains that piperus is an incredibly popular spice that works up an appetite and was once worth its weight in gold among the nobility. He excitedly harvests a massive bundle of the valuable spice and decides to head back to his cave to check on his pottery. When he returns, he happily discovers that his large clay pots have finished baking perfectly. With his new pots, salt root, piperous spice, and monster mushrooms ready, he eagerly begins cooking his massive stockpile of butchered wolf meat. He meticulously layers the sliced meat, chopped mushrooms, and spices into his new stone pot, adding water to create a rich, simmering stew over the glowing red embers. The delicious aroma quickly fills the dark cave, and when the stew is finally ready, he uses a makeshift pair of chopsticks to take a massive bite. The flavor is absolutely incredible, completely blowing away his previous meals thanks to the perfect addition of salt extracting the umami from the meat. The system formally congratulates his culinary success by leveling up his Mr. Cook title and officially awarding him the Ceramic Artisan title. He happily drinks the flavorful broth directly from the bowl but accidentally spills some of it, prompting him to decide that he desperately needs to craft proper spoons and line his cave walls with bricks next. While the dragon enjoys his peaceful domestic life, a wooden cart aggressively travels along a narrow rocky path leading straight into Noah's forest. Inside the dimly lit cart, a woman wearing a pink shirt gently wakes up her dog-eared companion Meltia, loudly announcing that they have finally arrived at their destination. A blonde woman in heavy armor stands near the edge of the scenic valley and officially confirms that this is the exact location the Adventurers Guild assigned them to investigate, perfectly fulfilling the promise Marielle made to Miria earlier regarding a professional search party. Back at the cave, the dragon finishes his meal and decides to butcher the remaining wolf carcasses. He carefully strips the pelts and hangs his freshly cut strips of meat on a nearby tree branch to dry into jerky. However, while his back is turned, a group of small, red-furred monkey monsters silently sneaks into his camp and aggressively steals his drying meat. He notices the theft and completely loses his temper, absolutely furious that the stupid monkeys ruined his entire stock of jerky. Determined to fend them off, he formulates a sinister plan to exact his revenge. He uses his mortar and pestle to brew a highly concentrated poisonous concoction in his cauldron. He plans to steep his remaining jerky in the lethal mixture and leave it out as bait to permanently eliminate the thieving monkeys. While wandering through the forest to gather more poisonous plants, he stumbles upon a vibrant field filled with beautiful, multicolored flowers. The breathtaking scenery instantly calms his anger, and he decides to abandon his violent revenge plot in favor of picking the pretty flowers to decorate the outside of his dreary cave. As he happily admires the falling pink petals, he suddenly spots a small, dark purple, skunk-like creature with pink horns hiding among the blooms. He uses his view stats skill and discovers the monster is a venom Princess Lacerta, a terrifying creature equipped exclusively with high-level poison skills like Venom Fang and Poison Master. Before he can even react to the shocking information, a massive, sharp brown pillar suddenly bursts out of the ground and violently strikes him directly in the chest. He immediately recognizes the attack as a clay gun skill and is thrown flat onto his back by the sheer force of the impact. The Venom Princess Lacerta quickly capitalizes on his vulnerability and leaps directly onto his shoulder. The small monster mercilessly digs its sharp, venomous claws deep into his flesh, rapidly injecting a highly potent toxin into his bloodstream. The system chimes in to announce that his poison-resistant skill has successfully leveled up to 4, but the notification offers him absolutely no comfort. The intense pain radiating from his shoulder feels completely unnatural, and he quickly realizes that the powerful venom has already completely paralyzed his arm. He aggressively struggles to move, but the debilitating poison quickly spreads to his massive body, forcing him to painfully hunch over as he desperately attempts to flee through the field of flowers. His vision begins to blur, and his legs completely give out, causing him to collapse heavily into the dirt under the swirling pink petals. He desperately wonders if this was all part of the monster's plan, while the small striped creature refuses to let go and menacingly clings to his back, continuing to pump lethal toxins into his helpless body while he slowly loses the ability to fight back. He realizes the small monster only has poison-related skills and is completely immune to its own venom. He gets hit by another clay gun projectile, and the creature viciously digs its claws into his shoulder to pump even more toxins into his bloodstream. He feels an intense burning pain as his poison-resistant skill forcefully levels up, but it does absolutely nothing to stop the creeping paralysis rapidly spreading through his massive body. He uses his view stats skill on the monster and discovers it is a Venom Princess Lacerta that naturally produces a highly potent internal antidote which it uses to bargain for its life when captured by predators. He quickly understands that he has to capture the creature alive if he wants to survive the lethal poison coursing through his veins. He gambles that the monster is secretly watching him from the nearby bushes to see if the venom successfully kills him. He suddenly springs up from the dirt and aggressively charges toward her hiding spot to catch her off guard. The small creature completely panics upon seeing him move and immediately runs away through the dense forest. He relentlessly chases her down the long dirt path while his body continues to weaken. She unexpectedly uses her roll skill to move at incredible speeds and even fires highly destructive clay gun projectiles at him while rapidly spinning like a wheel. He easily dodges the incoming attacks and remembers a steep rocky cliff nearby from his previous battles in the area. He strategically herds her toward the canyon edge to completely cut off her escape route. She tries to launch a desperate surprise attack directly at his face, but he swiftly dodges the strike. She completely loses her footing and violently tumbles backward off the edge of the high cliff. He watches her fall toward the deep rushing river below and suddenly realizes that if she dies in the fall, he will never get the antidote and will definitely die. He immediately dives off the cliff after her without a second thought. He successfully catches her in midair, but his poisoned body is far too weak to fly them back up to safety. He quickly uses his baby breath skill to blast a massive wave of fire against the rocky cliffside to properly cushion their heavy fall. They violently crash into the valley below in a massive explosion of smoke and debris. He is heavily injured from the rough impact and completely paralyzed by the potent venom. He passes out in the dirt, fully expecting to die but feeling strangely glad that he at least saved the small creature from being completely crushed. He wakes up hours later at sunset and is completely shocked to find himself still breathing. He flexes his arms and realizes his heavy body no longer hurts and the nasty paralysis is completely gone. He looks over and sees the small purple creature sitting peacefully next to him on the grass. He realizes she actually gave him the antidote while he was unconscious. He thanks her profusely and happily lifts her high into the air to spin her around in celebration. He feels incredibly grateful for her help and realizes she is his very first genuine friend in this harsh new world. He carries her back to his glowing blue cave base so they can share a proper meal together. He carefully cooks a massive stew using his freshly harvested wolf meat and rare spices over the bright open fire. He serves her a large wooden bowl and she absolutely loves the delicious food. She affectionately nuzzles his scaly face and he decides to just call her Black Lizard since neither of them actually has a real name yet. He tells her she can stay in his cave permanently and she happily agrees to become his roommate. Later, he catches her jumping directly into his large iron cauldron filled with the highly concentrated special poison he brewed earlier to kill the monkeys. She happily eats the toxic sludge like a delicious treat without taking any damage at all. He stubbornly tries a small bite of the deadly poison himself to see if it actually tastes good, but he instantly gets electrocuted and violently paralyzed. The foolish mistake successfully levels up his poison resistance again, but leaves him twitching helplessly on the cave floor. The next day, they head out into the lush green forest to aggressively hunt monsters together. They easily ambush a large pack of dangerous blue wolves with glowing orange eyes. He uses his raw physical strength to brutally punch and kick the wolves away, while Black Lizard rapidly strikes them with her magical attacks from a distance. They effortlessly defeat the entire pack using absolutely perfect teamwork and celebrate their easy victory. Black Lizard rapidly climbs a tall palm tree and knocks down several fresh green coconuts for them to eat. They split the coconuts open and happily drink the sweet milk together in the shade. That night, they sleep peacefully in the dark cave with Black Lizard resting comfortably on his chest. He feels incredibly happy with his completely new life and hopes nothing ever ruins their peaceful daily routine. The following morning, they explore much deeper into the dense forest. He eats a spicy red berry and immediately craves some fresh meat to balance the intense flavor. They stumble upon a giant purple mushroom completely covered in creepy skull-like faces. He checks its stats and discovers it is a highly poisonous monster called Candida cadaverus that smells exactly like rotting corpses. Black Lizard starts rapidly drooling over the toxic mushroom and aggressively tries to eat it for a snack. He absolutely refuses to let her eat the gross mushroom because he knows it will make her breath smell terrible forever. He instantly takes a deep breath and blasts the mushroom with a massive golden fireball to completely turn it to ash. Black Lizard gets absolutely furious that he ruined her meal and violently hits him in the head with her clay gun skill as payback. Their silly argument is suddenly interrupted by the arrival of a massive two-headed monster crashing through the trees. The terrifying beast has a blue monstrous head on one side and a brown bear-like head on the other. He checks its stats and realizes it is an incredibly overpowered boss monster with dangerous gravity magic that can easily crush them. He quickly forms a battle plan and tells Black Lizard to wait for a perfect opening to strike. He aggressively charges forward and forcefully swings his massive claws to completely distract the beast. The twin head instantly counters by casting a glowing purple gravity magic circle directly under his feet. The intense magical pressure completely pins him to the forest floor and prevents him from moving a single muscle. The brown bear head roars loudly and prepares to crush him. The powerful gravity spell suddenly wears off just in time. He immediately retaliates by taking a deep breath and blasting the entire monster with a massive golden wave of fire. The intense flames completely engulf the beast, but the blue head simply uses a glowing green recovery spell to instantly heal all of the heavy burn damage. He carefully analyzes the fight and realizes the brown head only uses physical attacks while the blue head strictly acts as a magical healer. He knows they have to completely stop the blue head from using its magic if they want to win the difficult battle. He rapidly dashes through the dense trees to easily avoid the monster's powerful physical strikes. He finally finds an opening and brutally punches the brown head directly in the face. He excitedly yells for Black Lizard to launch her attack. She perfectly times her fast strike and severely poisons the massive twin head. The monster's health rapidly depletes as the potent venom heavily damages its massive body from the inside out. He happily celebrates their incoming victory, but the brown head suddenly turns and viciously bites completely through the blue head's neck. He watches in absolute horror as the brown head brutally rips the blue head off its own body to permanently stop the venom from spreading to its vital organs. The severed blue head immediately activates a Dark Destiny bond skill called Sacrifice and violently flies straight toward Black Lizard to drag her down to hell with them. He frantically screams for her to run away and recklessly charges forward to intercept the enraged brown bear head. The headless bear violently bites down on his arm, but he completely ignores the agonizing pain. He uses his raw physical strength to brutally slam the massive beast directly into the dirt. He rapidly launches himself high into the bright blue sky and fully activates his powerful Nutcracker skill. He dive bombs straight back down and completely crushes the monster in a massive explosion of dust and debris to officially win the fight. He immediately searches the ruined area for Black Lizard but only finds a massive pool of dark blood completely soaking the green grass. He quickly assumes the severed blue head successfully killed her and he completely loses his mind. He screams in agonizing grief and violently slashes at the surrounding trees in a blind rage. He heavily damages the forest and begs the system to take away his highly desired human transformation skill, if it just means bringing his only friend back to life. Suddenly, Black Lizard weakly crawls out from behind a thick bush. She is badly wounded and completely covered in blood, but still fully alive. He is completely overwhelmed with massive relief and cries happily as she gently licks the tears off his scaly face. The system formally congratulates him for defeating the incredibly dangerous boss monster and awards him a massive amount of experience points for the difficult battle. He instantly levels up from 33 all the way to 37 in a single moment. To his absolute shock, the system immediately announces that he has finally acquired the long-awaited human transformation skill. He brightly glows with the intense light as his massive body finally prepares to change forms. Meanwhile, back in the distant human village, Marielle strictly warns Miria about the extreme dangers hidden within the dark forest. They sit together inside a small stone cottage and carefully read an ancient green book detailing various monster ranks and abilities. Marielle points out the terrifying illustrations and clearly explains that creatures like the Twin Head and Rock Dragon are completely lethal to any normal humans. She strictly insists that only legendary heroes can ever hope to survive an encounter with dangerous monsters ranked D or higher. She uses the terrifying information to heavily reiterate exactly why no one from their peaceful village should ever wander into the deadly woods alone. Miria listens quietly but secretly knows she already hired outside help to find Does. Suddenly they hear a loud, sudden knock on the wooden door. The heavily armed adventurers Miria, secretly hired, finally arrive at the cottage to properly begin their dangerous rescue mission. Grants and his armored blonde partner step inside the room and immediately prepare to head straight into the deadly forest to hunt the monsters. Black Lizard licks the tears off his face. He is incredibly relieved that she survived the brutal boss fight. He decides that he no longer cares about becoming a human as long as he has his one true friend by his side. He checks his system interface and sees he earned a massive 234 experience points, which gets doubled by his special title. He instantly levels up to 37 and receives a notification that he finally unlocked the human transformation skill. He immediately gets his hopes up again. Meanwhile, Meltia and Hibiki walk through the dense forest. Hibiki questions why Meltia took a dangerous C-rank request with just the two of them instead of their full party. Meltia openly admits that it is much easier to run away if things get tough when she only has one person to worry about. Hibiki gets extremely annoyed and asks if Meltia is perfectly fine with her dying. Meltia claims she is only joking and explains that the mission simply involves searching the forest for a man named Duz, who is already presumed dead, so it should not be too dangerous. They soon arrive at a large wooden house and step inside to meet their clients. Marielle, a half-elf, sits at the table with Miria. Marielle politely asks Miria to leave the room so they can discuss the mission privately. Once Miria leaves, Marielle explains that Miria feels deeply responsible for Duz's death after he fought a dangerous rock dragon. Miria constantly wanders into the deadly forest to search for him. Marielle hires the two adventurers to find definitive proof of Duz's death, or at least search for several days, so they can officially close the case and stop Miria from risking her life. Meltia and Hibiki accept the terms and immediately head back out into the wilderness. Back at the cave, the protagonist tells Black Lizard to rest on her bed of vines. He walks outside into the sunlight and gets incredibly excited about his new human transformation skill. He hopes to turn into a highly attractive man or a beautiful girl so he can finally interact with the local villagers and maybe live a normal life part-time. He steps near the water and activates the skill. A massive vortex of purple energy completely consumes him. When the light fades, he looks at his reflection and recoils in pure horror. Instead of a normal human, he has transformed into a grotesque, multi-eyed, dark humanoid monster. He absolutely hates his new appearance and feels completely cheated by the system. He checks his stats and discovers his attack and defense are forcefully cut in half. He also notices his magic points are draining incredibly fast, just to maintain the ugly form. He angrily cancels the transformation, turns back into a dragon, and lies flat on the dirt in total disappointment. Elsewhere in the forest, Meltia and Hibiki successfully defeat a massive red spider monster. Meltia breathes a sigh of relief, but they notice the sky is getting dark. Hibiki points out that the monsters are getting much stronger the deeper they go, and they still have not found any trace of Duz. They decide it is best to turn back. On their way out, they accidentally stumble upon the protagonist's cave. They notice strange humanoid and dragon statues near the entrance, and assume it is an old shrine built by dangerous dragon worshippers. They smell cooked meat and cautiously step inside the illuminated cavern. They find large ceramic pots filled with food and rare red spices. Hibiki excitedly recognizes the spices and wants to steal them to take home, but Meltia quickly stops her. Meltia suspects the cave is actually a hideout for dangerous thieves and warns Hibiki not to touch anything. Suddenly, Black Lizard appears from the shadows. Meltia immediately recognizes her as a venom princess and warns Hibiki that a single bite from the creature is completely lethal. Black Lizard aggressively pounces toward them. Meltia swiftly draws her sword and slashes the monster, easily knocking her away. Realizing the cave is highly dangerous, they decide to escape immediately. The protagonist hides outside and watches them leave. He sees they are a human knight and a dog-eared demi-human. He desperately wants to impress them and show off his cave. He decides to use his human transformation skill again, hoping they might mistake his hideous form for a friendly puppy human. He jumps out of the bushes and happily greets them. However, his terrifying appearance completely shocks the two girls. Hibiki fully panics and swings her massive barrel-shaped mallet directly at his face. The powerful blow sends him flying backward into the trees. Meltia immediately follows up by unleashing her ultimate light magic attack. Blinding yellow beams of light crash down from the sky and violently blast him into the ground. The massive impact completely defeats him and forces him to revert to his normal dragon form. Meltia exhausts all her magic points from the attack, so the two girls quickly run away to safety. The protagonist sits in the dirt and cries over his failed attempt at making human friends, while Black Lizard peacefully sleeps next to him. Meltia and Hibiki stop running and realize the forest is heavily infested with dangerous plague dragons. They agree to leave the forest completely and gather their usual crew for backup before returning. The next morning, the protagonist wakes up fully recovered from the severe beating. He eats some meat, but quickly realizes some monkeys have been stealing his hanging jerky. He decides to strictly punish the thieves. He asks Black Lizard to brew a highly potent poison that has no color or smell. She eagerly jumps into a pot and easily synthesizes the perfect clear toxin. He praises her amazing skills and carefully coats several hanging strips of meat with the lethal poison. They hide behind some bushes and wait for the thieves to arrive. Soon, 3 small red-haired monkeys approach the trap and greedily eat the poisoned meat. One of the monkeys instantly collapses to the ground, foaming at the mouth and convulsing violently. Seeing the poison work perfectly, the protagonist leaps out of the bushes with Black Lizard on his back to confront the remaining thieves. The small monkeys screech aggressively and attempt to launch a coordinated team attack against him. The protagonist easily dodges their strikes and uses his overwhelming physical strength to pin one monkey to the ground. He mercilessly flings the others across the clearing, effortlessly winning the brief skirmish. Suddenly, a massive roar echoes through the forest. The defeated monkeys successfully call for backup, and a giant gray-furred ape with red markings crashes into the battlefield. The protagonist checks the new monster's stats and discovers it is a giant orangurang, a highly dangerous boss monster that evolved by violently defeating the previous alpha of the clan. He also notices the giant ape possesses a powerful support skill that significantly boosts the combat abilities of its followers. Knowing he has to end the fight instantly, the protagonist unleashes a massive spear of fire to incinerate the entire area. However, his attack is far too slow. The three small monkeys fully recover from the poison and use their newly boosted speed to aggressively swarm him. They rapidly bite his shoulders and violently pull at his limbs, completely overwhelming him in close combat. The giant alpha ape watches the struggle from a distance. The protagonist suddenly realizes the alpha possesses a telepathy skill. He quickly grabs one of the small monkeys by the neck and holds it hostage. The alpha uses telepathy to speak directly into his mind. The protagonist offers a strict deal, promising to have Black Lizard completely cure the poison monkey if the alpha orders its clan to retreat. The alpha bluntly refuses the offer. It coldly explains that their clan strictly weeds out the weak, and sacrificing a few members is necessary to eliminate a major threat. The alpha brags about killing its own forefather to claim the throne, and insists the weak must simply die. Realizing negotiations are entirely pointless, the protagonist formally challenges the giant ape to a one-on-one duel between clan chiefs. He gambles that the alpha will respect the sacred rules of a duel even against another species. The alpha accepts the challenge and agrees to fight without any outside interference. To ensure the protagonist does not cheat, the monkey clan grabs Black Lizard and holds her hostage, promising to release her only if he manages to win the duel. The intense battle instantly begins. Protagonist struggles to figure out how to bypass the alpha's massive buffs. The giant ape forcefully slams the ground and prepares to attack. The protagonist leaps high into the air and executes a rapid spinning tail attack, diving straight toward the ape. The alpha easily tanks the physical blow and violently grabs the protagonist's arm. The ape then unleashes a devastating energy beam directly from its mouth, blasting the surrounding landscape and heavily damaging the area. The protagonist barely survives the explosion and quickly retaliates by launching several sharp purple energy slashes. The attacks strike the alpha directly in the chest and successfully inflict the confusion status effect. The giant ape clutches its head in distress as its stats drop. The protagonist celebrates the successful hit and prepares to press his advantage. However, the alpha fiercely roars and completely cures its confusion. The giant ape then channels all of its remaining magic points into casting a major agility buff on itself. The protagonist instantly panics as he realizes the massive ape is now blindingly fast. The alpha leaps off a high rocky cliff and delivers a brutal punch, slamming the protagonist squarely into the grassy ground and creating a massive crater from the sheer impact. The protagonist struggles to his feet, and the two monsters engage in a furious melee exchange. The alpha easily outpaces him, landing a devastating punch to his face that creates a massive shockwave. The protagonist tries to strike back, but the ape effortlessly dodges and delivers a powerful kick to his chest, sending him hurtling backward through the dense trees. The ape follows up with a brutal strike to his abdomen and another crushing punch to his face. The protagonist takes massive damage and realizes he cannot possibly outmaneuver the incredibly fast boss. He decides his only remaining option is to force a direct, head-on clash where speed matters less. He openly taunts the alpha, insulting its pride and demanding a straight fistfight. He questions if the giant ape is too scared to face him directly. The proud alpha instantly takes the bait and charges straight at him. The protagonist clenches his fist and meets the charge. They violently collide in the center of the clearing, locking their fists together in a massive struggle of pure physical strength. The alpha proves too strong and overpowers him, delivering more brutal kicks and punches to his heavily bruised body. The protagonist reaches his absolute physical limit as his scales get covered in deep scratches and his energy completely drains. The giant ape prepares to deliver the final, crushing blow to end the duel. The protagonist intentionally lowers his guard and takes the massive punch directly to the face. As the alpha's fist violently connects, the protagonist perfectly times his ultimate counterattack. He unleashes a devastating dragon punch directly into the alpha's head. The massive counter blow perfectly absorbs the ape's momentum and releases it in a blinding explosion of force. The alpha's defenses completely shatter, and a massive spray of blood erupts from the impact. The giant ape instantly collapses to the ground, entirely defeated. The protagonist's system announces that his Dragon Punch skill leveled up. He earns 162 experience points, which doubles to 324. He instantly levels up from 37 to 39 and successfully earns the clan boss title. Exhausted and badly beaten, the protagonist violently vomits a large amount of blood from the severe internal damage, but happily realizes he finally won the brutal duel. He wakes up inside his dark, rocky cave and immediately opens his green digital status window to check his condition after the brutal boss fight. He sees that his health is fully restored and he has successfully leveled up to 39. He picks up Black Lizard and asks her how a tiny creature like her managed to drag his incredibly heavy, unconscious body all the way back from the battlefield. Before she can answer, a group of the purple, monkey-like creatures with pink hair and sharp teeth suddenly jumps out from the dark shadows of the cave. He completely panics and assumes they tracked him down to get violent revenge for him killing their leader, the giant orangutan. However, he quickly notices that they are actually cheering loudly and raising their fists in the air in pure celebration. He checks his system again and realizes that by defeating the old Alpha, he earned the clan boss title, which means the entire monkey clan now worships him as their brand new leader. He decides this is actually a massive stroke of luck because he can easily use them as his personal servants to handle all the boring busywork and heavy lifting around the hideout. The monkeys eagerly run out and quickly return with a massive pile of colorful, fresh fruit for him to eat. He is totally amazed by their fast gathering skills and decides to reward them. He points to the strips of dried meat hanging on a rope between the cave walls and tells them they can eat it. The monkeys happily grab the jerky and start chewing on it with wide-eyed excitement. Since they love the meat so much, he figures he does not need to go out hunting today and can instead focus on refreshing his food supply. He takes a massive, thick slab of pink raw meat and places it on a wooden table to begin teaching one of the purple-haired monkeys how to cook. He carefully slices the meat into thick pieces, tosses them into a large, dark brown earthenware pot, and adds a generous amount of salt and rare green spices. He vigorously mixes everything together with his bare hands and tells the monkey that the meat needs to rest for a while to absorb the flavor. He then hands the sharp knife over to the monkey and tells it to give the process a try. The monkey gets so incredibly excited about cooking that a massive, fierce purple aura instantly erupts around its entire body, completely shocking the dragon. Despite the weird and intense reaction, he is very happy to put the monkeys officially in charge of making all of his jerky. He then looks around the cave and realizes that with so many new hungry roommates, he is going to need a lot more pots to store the extra food. He goes outside into the sunlight and tries to violently smash a giant rock into a bowl shape using a wooden hammer, but the stone is way too hard and the task is completely impossible for him. He remembers that the Monkey Clan possesses a special passive skill called Nimble, and they have very long, skinny fingers that are absolutely perfect for delicate crafting. He brings out a pile of wet brown clay, points to it, and shows them how to mold it into a container. The monkeys quickly take over the project and easily craft several perfect, massive clay jars. He holds one of the sparkling new jars high above his head in total triumph, absolutely thrilled that he now has a dedicated ceramics team working for him. Shortly after, he walks back into the cave and catches Black Lizard angrily stomping her tiny feet on a pile of brown dough. He realizes she is extremely jealous and desperately wants to be involved in the crafting process too, so he feels incredibly guilty for ignoring her and not asking her to help. To keep the rest of the clan busy, he grabs 2 large shovels and a pair of heavy wooden mallets that he previously crafted from super durable clay bear clay. He hands the tools over to 2 other purple-furred monkeys and orders them to start digging to widen the cave walls so everyone has more room to comfortably sleep. He watches them enthusiastically smash the rocks and is incredibly impressed by how fast they learn to use the tools to increase their efficiency. Meanwhile, back in the human town, Meltia and Hibiki are sitting together in a busy tavern. Hibiki, wearing her pink outfit, eats a plate of steak and mentions that they are still waiting for their other 2 party members, Daz and Romina, to finally show up. Meltia, fully dressed in her gray and yellow armor, takes a long sip from her wooden mug and assumes the others are just finishing up another quest and will definitely hurry over as soon as they are done. Hibiki admits she is still completely terrified by their incredibly close encounter with the plague dragon in the woods. Meltia looks very serious and firmly states that the dragon's cave was highly suspicious and clearly proves something very dangerous is going on out there. She insists they must gather their full team and head back into the forest to thoroughly investigate the growing threat. The next morning, the dragon wakes up feeling a crushing, heavy weight completely paralyzing his entire body. He opens his glowing yellow eyes and realizes the entire Monkey Clan is using him as a giant mattress and peacefully sleeping on his limbs. He complains that they stink terribly and tries to violently shake them off his body. As the monkeys tumble off onto the giant green leaf below, he notices one of them is lying flat on its back, completely paralyzed, sweating profusely, and groaning in severe pain. He opens the monkey's status screen and screams in pure panic when he sees it is currently afflicted with a major special venom status effect. He instantly glares at Black Lizard, who just stands nearby giggling innocently while swaying her heart-shaped tail. He realizes she intentionally poisoned the monkey out of pure jealousy because he was giving his brand new followers all of his attention instead of playing with her. He yells at her to stop messing around and quickly forces her to synthesize a cure. He begs her to give the dying monkey the antidote immediately. He sternly scolds her for taking her frustration out on the clan and admits he has been ignoring her way too much lately. To make up for his bad behavior, he promises that they will spend the entire day hunting together. Just the two of them, exactly like they used to do. Elsewhere in the dense forest, Miria continues her dangerous solo mission to find Duz. She wears her blue cloak and clutches her long wooden staff as she walks alone through the thick and vibrant green brush. She stops in a small clearing and looks around with a deeply concerned expression, admitting to herself that she has ventured way too far into the deadly woods and should probably turn back towards town very soon. At the same time, the dragon and Black Lizard happily walk down a dirt path together. He mentions that he is only one single level away from his next major evolution and really wants to farm as much experience as possible to trigger it today. He also tells her he wants to gather more fruits and materials to decorate their cave. He asks Black Lizard if she agrees with his plan, but she just silently sways her tail and keeps walking. He tells her to keep a sharp eye out for any easy prey. Suddenly, she reacts to a sound and points her tiny paw towards the bushes. Two large, menacing gray wolves leap out onto the dirt path right in front of them. The dragon cracks his knuckles and gets ready for a fun, easy warm-up fight. However, before he can even throw a single punch, 4 of his monkey followers suddenly drop from the tree canopy high above. They use their new shovels and heavy mallets to brutally smash the wolves into the ground, completely obliterating them in a massive cloud of dust. The dragon cheers loudly and praises the monkeys for their massive attack power boost, but Black Lizard crosses her arms in total disgust. She immediately turns around and angrily walks away down the path, completely fed up with the monkeys ruining their special solo date. The dragon realizes he messed up again and desperately chases after her, yelling for her to wait. Meanwhile, Miria is still wandering through the darkest part of the forest. She suddenly spots a tall man with long black hair and a sword strapped to his back standing completely motionless between 2 massive tree trunks. She instantly recognizes him as Daz and desperately calls out his name while running towards him. The man does not respond to her voice at all, and Miria freezes in pure horror as 3 terrifying sets of glowing, slit-like eyes emerge from the pitch-black void right behind him. The man then leaps down from the trees and lands directly in front of her, completely trapping her in the clearing. Back in the sunny valley, the dragon finally catches up to Black Lizard. He gently picks her up, holds her close to his chest, and sincerely apologizes for letting the monkeys tag along and ruin their day. He promises to leave them behind in the cave next time and swears that she is the absolute most important thing in his entire life, and that will never change. Suddenly, he hears Miria's terrified voice echoing loudly directly in his mind. He instantly knows she is in terrible danger, but he hesitates for a second, worrying she might be traveling with other heavily armed human adventurers. He suddenly experiences a highly traumatic vision of a hooded man with a mustache and a swordsman mercilessly slaughtering a giant green dragon with powerful yellow lightning magic. He also sees a brutal flashback of a small yellow rabbit creature being violently stabbed with a large blade and a group of angry, red-eyed villagers holding pitchforks and a lantern. He quickly shakes off the terrifying memories and decides he does not care about the extreme risk to his own life. He tells Black Lizard to stay exactly where she is and instantly transforms into a massive, jagged orb of purple energy. He rockets across the grassy terrain at blinding speeds to reach Miria as fast as possible. He pushes himself way too hard and completely loses control of his movement, violently crashing headfirst into a massive boulder. The huge impact sends a burst of purple energy into the air and leaves him tumbling across the dirt. Black Lizard quickly catches up to him and looks incredibly worried about his condition. He checks his health bar and is very relieved to see he still has 75 hit points left. He tells Black Lizard that he absolutely must save Miria no matter what. Right then, the system voice chimes in to announce that his itty-bitty hero and wrongdoer titles have both successfully leveled up. He angrily yells at the divine voice to shut up because he has the most charming personality ever and does not have time for stupid notifications. Deep in the forest, Miria cowers on the mossy ground and clutches her staff in sheer terror. She is completely surrounded by 3 massive blue wolves with 3 glowing eyes and highly exposed pink muscles on their faces. One of the hideous wolves aggressively bares its sharp fangs and violently lunges straight at her. Just a second before it bites her, a blinding beam of purple energy blasts out of the dense trees and violently smashes the wolf directly into the bushes, sending a massive cloud of debris into the air. The dragon steps out of the dust cloud and stands protectively in front of Miria. She looks up at his massive, dark form but does not recognize him at all due to his terrifying new appearance. He opens the monster's status screen and sees they are D-rank Mahawolves. The system explicitly explains they use their glowing third eye to instantly share visual information with the rest of their pack to perfectly coordinate their attacks. He realizes more wolves will be swarming the area very soon, so he decides to wipe them out instantly before things get worse. He inhales deeply and unleashes his powerful baby breath skill. A gigantic, swirling explosion of intense orange and yellow fire erupts from his jaws and completely incinerates the entire pack of wolves in a massive, blinding shockwave of extreme heat. As the smoke slowly clears, a colossal black dragon with glowing yellow eyes and 2 giant green wolf heads growing straight out of its back steps onto the battlefield and looms menacingly over them. The protagonist turns around to check on Miria, but he accidentally flaps his purple wings and releases a massive cloud of toxic poison powder right into her face. He instantly panics and opens her status screen, but he breathes a massive sigh of relief when he sees her health is full, and she is totally unaffected by the low-level poison. However, Miria is still completely terrified of him and screams at him to stay away. He clutches his head in total despair, feeling incredibly hurt that she looks at him like he is the evil demon king breaking in to attack her. Right in the middle of the extreme panic, the system completely ignores the tension and happily announces that he earned enough experience points to finally reach the level cap of 40. It then states he has met all the strict requirements for evolution. A blinding white light completely engulfs his entire body, and he furiously screams at the system for picking the absolute worst possible moment to force an evolution on him. As he stands there glowing brightly, Miria stares at his silhouette and suddenly remembers her very first encounter in the forest. She realizes this terrifying beast is the exact same little dragon she met days ago. To test her crazy theory, she raises her gloved hands like little claws and makes a cute, playful growling sound. The dragon immediately stops panicking, looks down at her, and happily roars back while mimicking her exact clawing gestures. Miria smiles widely, finally realizing her true friend is still in there. With their special bond fully restored, the dragon turns his attention back to the massive 2-headed wolf monster, quickly closing in on them. Knowing he cannot possibly win a brutal fight against such a colossal boss while trying to protect a fragile human, he makes a split-second decision. He quickly reaches down, scoops Miria up in his giant orange claws, and violently sprints away through the dense trees at top speed, absolutely determined to keep her safe no matter what enemies stand in their way. Meanwhile, Marielle and Gregory search the village for Miria but find absolutely no sign of her anywhere. Marielle assumes the foolish girl must have wandered back into the dangerous forest and insists on going after her. She instructs Gregory to sweep the village one more time just in case Miria returns, praying that the young girl is safe. Soon after, Marielle and Gregory meet up with a blonde armored warrior who leads their adventurer party. Gregory admits he originally thought the forest seemed relatively harmless, but Marielle quickly points out the suspicious jar of Piperus and the terrifying plague dragon they encountered earlier. The blonde leader agrees with Marielle, stating it is way too risky for just 2 people to investigate such an abnormality. She decides they need to head back to the village first to secure official permission from their client before deploying their entire roster for a massive search operation. At the exact same time, the dark dragon sprints desperately through the dense forest with Miria clinging tightly to his back. They are being relentlessly hunted by a massive pack of blue Maha wolves with 3 glowing eyes and razor-sharp fangs. The wolves are incredibly persistent, forcing the dragon to navigate through a narrow, rocky canyon to avoid getting completely surrounded. He decides to stand his ground and vows to protect Miria from the aggressive ambush. The monsters lunge at him from all sides, biting and tearing at his tough scales. He retaliates with absolute brutality, unleashing a massive stream of blazing fire from his jaws and swatting the wolves away with his incredibly powerful limbs. He easily flattens several of the beasts against the hard canyon floor, leaving them completely defeated. After wiping out the attackers, he complains to himself that the fight was entirely pointless since he is already at his maximum level and cannot absorb any experience points. He wonders why the wolves never attempted to retreat and fought to the death instead. Suddenly, he hears Miria calling out to him. He gently carries her through the lush greenery, constantly questioning his next move. He considers taking her straight to the village but immediately remembers a traumatic flashback where angry villagers attacked him with pitchforks when he previously tried to return a different child. He feels completely helpless because he cannot communicate with Miria due to the frustrating language barrier. He figures his best option is to just drop her off somewhere safe near the outskirt of the settlement. Exhausted, Miria rests her head against his back and slowly closes her eyes. To his absolute amazement, he somehow understands her expressing deep gratitude. The system immediately chimes in, offering him the chance to view his available evolution paths. He decides to check his options and is presented with 4 distinct choices, floating in glowing blue holographic windows. He quickly notices that none of the options are a direct upgrade to his current plague dragon form, but he immediately dismisses the thought since he hates being a plague dragon anyway. He knows Miria would absolutely abandon him if he evolved into an even more horrifying monster. The first option is the Dark Drago Human, a low-ranking demi-human covered in dark scales. He thinks becoming essentially human sounds way too good to be true and firmly believes the system is trying to trick him into a terrible fate. The second choice is the Rolling Dragon, a creature that sacrifices strength for extreme speed. He instantly rejects it, assuming it only relies on rolling around like a ridiculous circus act. The third option is the Little Arc Dragon, a highly intelligent light-type beast capable of using white magic. He actually loves the idea of becoming a righteous light type because it would allow him to easily socialize with humans. However, he hesitates because choosing a little form might severely restrict his future evolution potential. Finally, he looks at the Jormungand, a colossal snake with highly venomous scales that turns any soil it touches completely barren. He immediately throws that option out the window, knowing it would instantly make him the ultimate enemy of all humankind and a total abomination. He desperately wishes he could ask for Miria's advice on what to choose. He wonders if taking the demi-human route would make her accept him, but he also worries that his monster friends, like the Black Lizard, might completely reject him if he looks too human. He sits by a sparkling blue river, clutching his head in utter distress over his major life decision. Miria watches him throwing a tiny tantrum and playfully splashes him with some fresh water. She points to herself and proudly states her name. Because his Greek language skill just leveled up, he perfectly understands her words for the very first time. He becomes absolutely ecstatic, cheering wildly and splashing water right back at her. They spend some time playing together by the waterfall, enjoying a brief moment of total peace. Eventually, they sit down on the rocky shore to dry off. Miria explains that she frequently sneaks into the forest without Marielle's permission because she is desperately searching for someone. She clarifies that she is not looking for the adventurers from the city, but rather a man named Duz. She looks down sadly and mentions that Duz was killed by the Little Rock Dragon. The dragon reacts with genuine shock, instantly recognizing the name of the man who previously invaded his cave. Miria notices his reaction and realizes he must be the exact same dragon that saved her life during that incident. Overjoyed, she immediately embraces his large head in a warm hug. He blushes heavily and completely abandons the idea of evolving into a little arc dragon, silently resolving to become a demi-human instead just for her sake. Miria steps back and politely asks if he has a name. The system abruptly displays an ancient message confirming that he is completely nameless. He shakes his head to let her know he does not have one. She eagerly asks if she can come up with a name for him, and he frantically nods his head in absolute agreement. She looks at his massive dark form and remembers a beautiful story about a hero. She envisions a majestic, terrifying black beast with multiple wolf heads, fiercely protecting a tiny girl against an entire horde of enemies. Inspired by her favorite flower and the heroic image in her mind, she decides to name him Illusia. The dragon absolutely loves the name and vows to find that specific flower for her someday. The system immediately prompts him to confirm the name change, warning him that the decision is entirely irreversible. He does not hesitate for a second and happily accepts the name. Far away in a highly advanced technology-equipped room, a group of mysterious observers continuously monitors a glowing pink holographic display that officially registers his brand new name. Back in the sunny forest, Miria happily practices saying his name aloud, and Illusia feels an overwhelming sense of joy. However, their peaceful moment is abruptly shattered by the terrifying sound of massive, booming footsteps echoing through the valley. Illusia immediately assumes the Little Rock Dragon is nearby. Knowing he cannot afford to face a massive boss right now, he decides to completely abandon his previous plans and take Miria straight to the village before hunting down Duz alone. They run down a golden dirt path, but are suddenly intercepted by another pack of blue Maha wolves. Illusia notices the wolves have a strange magic reception status, meaning someone else is actively controlling their minds. Just a moment later, a massive reddish-purple wolf steps out from the dense foliage. Riding on its back is a tall man with long dark hair, completely jagged teeth, and crazed red eyes. Miria instantly recognizes the terrifying man as Duz and begs to know why he is traveling with a horde of violent monsters. Illusia quickly scans Daz's status board and is completely baffled to find his skill list entirely blank. Without uttering a single word, Daz continuously laughs like a pure maniac and readies his weapon. Duz commands his massive beast to charge right at them. Illusia steps forward and forcefully grabs the beast's upper jaw with his sharp claws, effortlessly holding it back. Miria desperately pleads with Duz to stop this senseless violence. Seeing that Duz is completely out of his mind, she gathers her magical energy and casts a bright fireball directly at him. The fiery explosion engulfs Duz, completely blasting him off his mount and sending him crashing hard into the dirt. As the smoke clears, Illusia completely ignores the defeated wolves and focuses entirely on Duz. He notices the crazed man is tightly clutching a massive reddish egg-shaped object, like it is his most precious treasure. Suddenly, the extremely heavy footsteps from earlier begin to rapidly approach their location. Duz quickly hops onto the back of another blue demonic wolf, cradles the enormous egg, and continuously rides straight toward the nearby village. Illusia puts the pieces together and realizes Duz intentionally stole a precious rock dragon egg. The crazed man is deliberately baiting the colossal little rock dragon directly into the human settlement to unleash absolute destruction and get some kind of twisted revenge. Illusia knows they have to return the egg immediately, but Duz commands his remaining wolves to aggressively block their path. Illusia tries to simply outrun the monsters with Miria on his back, but the wolves are incredibly fast and relentlessly bite at his heels. Seeing that they cannot escape, Miria bravely tells Illusia to leave her behind to hold off the wolves so he can focus entirely on stopping Duz from slaughtering her innocent neighbors. Illusia refuses to abandon her to such a brutal fate. He gently places her on the ground and violently throws himself at the attacking wolves. He brutally slashes a massive brown beast with his glowing purple claws, completely tearing through its flesh and sending it crashing into the earth. The impact creates a massive eruption of dust and a towering beam of intense red light. However, while he is completely focused on destroying the larger beast, another wolf perfectly exploits the opening and aggressively lunges at Miria. The monster viciously bites into her shoulder, causing blood to wildly spray across the grass. Hearing her painful scream, Illusia completely loses his temper. He instantly blitzes across the battlefield, perfectly pinning the offending wolf to the ground and crushing its neck with his bare hands. Quickly finishes off the remaining threats and immediately rushes back to Miria's side. She cries softly as he gently holds her, continuously begging him to hurry to the village and stop Duz. Illusia stares at the distant horizon with absolute determination, loudly declaring that he will absolutely protect her home, but he also firmly vows to protect her life first and foremost. Meanwhile, the sun completely sets over the peaceful human village. A bearded man confidently tells the local children to head home for the evening. Suddenly, the dense tree line begins to violently shake. A massive, fragmented stone golem with a glowing yellow eye emerges from the shadows and slowly marches toward the vulnerable town. In another part of the forest, Mariel suddenly stops in her tracks, completely unnerved by a strange roaring sound echoing in the distance. The blonde armored warrior and her elite team ready their weapons, perfectly sensing the incoming danger. Somewhere on the dark forest path, Miria's blue cloak lies completely abandoned in the dirt while Illusia rapidly closes the distance, desperate to stop the absolute carnage before it even begins.